Ghost Rider is one of Marvel's most underutilized characters in their history. Let's talk about who is Ghost Rider and do a reading guide for all the mainline comics.
It's Morphin' time!
Hello, this is Soundout here, and on today's video we're talking Ghost Rider, and specifically reading orders and reading guides. And I want to also focus in on who Ghost Rider is, because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that at any given time there's 2 Ghost Riders running around, if not 3, if not 4. Also, you know, what's a Hellverine? I'm going to go into all of it. We're going to go through the history of Ghost Rider comics, starting from the very beginning to the present day. I got everything broken down into reading groups. I won't be doing an issue-by-issue breakdown. It's just not the format I like doing, but I will be going through every series and also mentioning significant appearances in other books. Like, we're going to talk about Avengers when it comes to the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider. We're going to talk about Thunderbolts when it comes to Johnny Blaze. There is going to be mentions of that stuff, and I'm going to be using the trade paperbacks and the other collections as a guide to go through this, so I hope you will enjoy this. I will be going through as much detail as I can while keeping it simple. This is kind of a video of like who is Ghost Rider as much as it is a reading guide, and I hope you will enjoy it. And if you enjoy that type of video, please hit the like button. Lets me know you enjoyed it, lets YouTube know you enjoyed it, gets it out to more people. Share it with your friends, and hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Plus, check out other videos on the channel. I did a Guardians of the Galaxy guide in a similar vein to this one a little while ago, and you should check that out. Also, there will be a written documentation of all the Ghost Rider appearances in more detail, issue-by-issue breakdown, than there is in the video, and that'll be in my Discord server in the Guides and Checklists section, so go join our Discord server if you want access to that. But let's go through the video. I'm going to go through, we're going to go one Ghost Rider at a time, one era at a time, and explain who is each Ghost Rider, what makes them different, and what stories are part of their group of stories. That was a little redundant, but I will try to be a little bit better as we go forward into this video. Let's talk about Ghost Rider. Okay, so the first ever comic called Ghost Rider was featuring a character named Carter Slade. It only lasted 7 issues, and basically this has now been retconned as the character Phantom Rider. He was a literal Ghost Rider. It was a Western-type comic, and the character's reappeared in other versions since, but we're not going to really talk about Carter Slade much because he's not officially a Ghost Rider. He's used the name, but the name would get recontextualized as soon as we got to the first major Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze. Alright, so Johnny Blaze had his own series, and so we've got the first 2 Epic collections here. It's kind of our reference guide. So for Johnny Blaze, he debuted in Marvel Spotlight issue 5, and issues 5 through 11 of Marvel Spotlight were essentially the initial stories featuring Johnny Blaze. Now, the way the story of Johnny Blaze goes is that he was raised in a carnival. He is a high-flying stunt performer on a motorcycle. So he does crazy stuff, very Evel Knievel inspired, very much in that style of the 70s, since this was 1972. And Johnny Blaze basically makes a deal with the devil, later retconned to be any version of the devil in Marvel, because there's several, it's not just Mephisto. But the idea is that Johnny made a deal with the devil to prevent the death of his stepfather, Crash Simpson. Now, Crash Simpson had been, you know, very important in his life, and he did not want Crash to die. And now the thing is that Crash gets cured from his heart disease or illness, I can't remember which one at the moment, but he dies in a motorcycle accident. And so the devil gets his way either way, and that's where Johnny realizes he's made a huge mistake. And in the course of the story, it is part of his deal is that he has to become the spirit of vengeance. But, as Ghost Riders will do from here until the end of time, he does not comply with the devil's orders and strikes out on his own path, seeking vengeance only when he wants to. Now, the fun part about this is that you get a lot of great storytelling. A lot of Ghost Rider stories are kind of based on this, where he sort of has like that Western hero sort of vibe to him, where he's traveling from town to town, going through different experiences, sometimes crossing over with things, sometimes dating Karen Page from the Daredevil comics, fighting Man-Thing. He'll come across a lot of different characters, but during this time, you have a lot of just kind of like he's going from place to place trying to find his way in the world. Also of note, while the Ghost Rider powers in adaptation is pretty famous, like the penance stare that lets its victims feel the pain they've inflicted on others, it's not something you can work around mentally. Writers who keep writing it wrong, it is supposed to inflict the pain they've inflicted on others, not if they feel guilty or not. Pet peeve of mine of non-regular Ghost Rider writers writing the penance stare like it's something that Frank Castle can get over because he doesn't feel guilt. No, he would still feel the pain. That's how the penance stare works. Anyways, that didn't debut here. Ghost Rider's power is pretty limited to flaming motorcycle. He can shoot fire from his hands, and he has a great gimmick. Johnny Blaze managed to work this out. Basically, his Ghost Rider transformation happens at night during this era. It's not something that he can turn off, so at nighttime he just has a flaming skull, and the way it's kind of drawn and described is that his skin becomes transparent, so all you see is the skull and the fire. And he works it into his motorcycle stunt performing job as like, this is what I do, and it's a crazy thing. And so people are like, wow, that's a great mask. And he's like, yeah, great mask. So it kind of works out for him for a while. Now, this series did run quite a bit. The Ghost Rider series, starting in 1973, ran for 81 issues. He was also part of a team called the Champions, which only lasted 17 issues. There's a bunch of other crossover appearances, but if you're trying to read this, the best way, probably the Epic Collections, or at least the way they've mapped the Epic Collections. There's Volume 1, there is Volume 2 for those following along at home. There is Marvel Masterworks collecting all of this stuff, but there is no Omnibus or anything like that. Also, the Champions series, none of the issues are included in the Epics or the Masterworks, but there is like a Champions Masterwork, and hopefully we'll get a Champions Epic. I mean, it's 17 issues. I can probably throw it all in one. But yeah, it's a fun era. It's kind of the beginnings of things. But after the series ended in 1983, there was no Ghost Rider for several years. And that's where the second Ghost Rider comes in, Danny Ketch. Now, this is the Ghost Rider a lot of people are going to be familiar with, even if they don't realize it. He's the one that appeared throughout the 90s in comics. He's also the one that appeared in the 90s cartoons, like Incredible Hulk, Fantastic Four, that kind of thing. Ghost Rider here is Danny Ketch. Now, Danny Ketch has a different story from Johnny Blaze. Johnny Blaze is a character in this comic. Johnny Blaze does reappear without a spirit of vengeance bonded to him, and he is free of that spirit, but Danny Ketch gets a new spirit of vengeance and becomes the Ghost Rider after a horrific accident happens in a park. It is foretold in this first issue. Basically, there is a situation where Danny and his sister get attacked in the park, and so he touches the gas cap on his motorcycle and is imbued with a spirit of vengeance. And who that spirit of vengeance is and how it relates to Johnny Blaze's spirit is stuff that is revealed throughout the series. Now, this series was the most popular Ghost Rider comic of all time. It had the absolute longest run, and because it was coming out during the 90s, it also had a ton of tie-ins. So I want to kind of make this as simple as possible. So the Ghost Rider series itself ran 93 issues, officially 94. We'll get to that in a moment. But then there was also other comics. There was Ghost Rider Blaze Spirits of Vengeance, which was a second Ghost Rider book. There was Midnight Suns Unlimited, where Ghost Rider would appear. There was other spin-offs. There was like one-shots and graphic novels. There would be things such as like Marvel Comics Presents would have Ghost Rider stories. And then later, Johnny Blaze would have his own series again as Blaze. There is a ton, and I mean a ton of stuff for the 90s. And in terms of collections, they've sort of only just started scraping the surface. For Epic Collections, we have Volume 1 and Volume 6. And so that's kind of a big gap. But Volume 6 was stuff that had never been collected before. This volume is entirely the Siege of Darkness crossover with Ghost Rider, Morbius, Doctor Strange, the Night Stalkers, and the Darkhold crew, because this was part of the Midnight Suns era. And then it also includes a bunch of other stuff. This first volume of Danny Ketch, Vengeance Reborn, is a pretty straightforward collection of the first 12 issues plus other crossover appearances, but we don't have anything in between, and we're not exactly sure how it's all going to shake out. There are Danny Ketch Ghost Rider omnibuses, which do cover, I think they're covering up to issue 40 so far, the first two of them, and that covers two of the crossovers, but it's two of the smaller crossovers. So we're not exactly sure, I say we as the comic collecting community, what the plan is. Like, we got to see, if there's a Danny Ketch Omnibus Volume 3, will it start to include the crossovers in full the way the Epic collections have. And that's why I don't have the omnibuses, because I think maybe kind of like some of the X-Men and other Omnis, the Omnis are going to be a little bit more focused on the main story. The Epics are going to conclude everything. But yeah, if you're trying to read this era, I mean, I've got notes. Okay, I've got notes on how to read this era. It is a lot. And specifically, a bunch of this stuff hasn't been reprinted. A bunch of it is available digitally. A bunch of it isn't. It's kind of a difficult era to read for pure length. So I do kind of recommend, if you want to read the Danny Ketch original era, pick up the Epic collections and just read them as they come out, or pick up the omnibuses. Might be the simpler reading experience. There's also other thick trades like the Spirits of Vengeance, Rise of the Midnight Suns volume, which is kind of where I'm talking about where it gets messy, because this is Ghost Rider 28 and 31, but not 29 and 30, Spirits of Vengeance 1 to 6, Morbius 1, Darkhold 1, Night Stalkers 1, Web of Spider-Man 95-96, and material from Midnight Suns Unlimited. There's just so much in the 90s, and it's kind of becoming a collecting nightmare for pretty much everything. Spider-Man, X-Men. I think the only thing in the 90s that isn't complicated, actually, I don't have any answer for that, because I think all the 90s comics are pretty complicated because there's so much of it. They were pumping out so many books back then. So it's really great. I do enjoy this era because I do enjoy 90s comics, but I do enjoy it when it's curated and fed to me more so than trying to track it down on my own. But the series, like I said, did run a long time. It ran till issue 93. Its final issue was 94. It wasn't published. It actually didn't get published until 2007 as Ghost Rider Finale. And that was basically like 90s Ghost Rider. Was Danny Ketch as the Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze as a guy that had a Hellfire shotgun but no Ghost Rider. And it kind of ran a long time. It ran up to, I think, 1997, and then there was some additional material after that. Also in the 2020s, there was this flashback miniseries, Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, which was done by Howard Mackey, who wrote a lot of that 90s Ghost Rider. And the idea is it takes place during the 90s series, though despite, what I've read of it, I actually don't know where in the 90s series it takes place. So it's just kind of like it's an extra little thing. It's not a necessity. But basically, long story short, Danny Ketch is a much different character than Johnny Blaze, different upbringing, different background, different powers. This is where we get the chains from. This is where we get the penance stare from. This is where we get the spikes on the costume. And so the delineation, for those that want to keep track of which Ghost Rider's which, Danny's bike usually looks like this, but specifically Danny's supposed to have the chains and the spikes. Johnny sometimes has the chains, but Johnny has this supposed to look more like a motorcycle stunt performer outfit, whereas Danny goes more for street riding leather look, if that makes sense. Sometimes artwork just homogenizes the two together, which is a big frustration. Now, after this era, during this era, I should say, there was another Ghost Rider happening in a different point in time. And that was Ghost Rider 2099. So this was in the 2099 universe, which was the original one, was a different universe, but it was supposed to be like the future of the Marvel Universe. And Ghost Rider 2099 only lasted 25 issues. He didn't really cross over with the other 2099 books. He didn't, of course, cross over with the main Ghost Rider stuff. He was off in his own little world. And the way that Ghost Rider works here is you have a similar kind of thing where there is a spirit going on, but because it is 2099, it's a futuristic type setting, and so it's more cyberpunk themed. And so because of that, Ghost Rider is actually a net runner, and his spirit is uploaded into the cyberspace and then downloaded into a metallic body. And that is like the coolest thing and the coolest adaptation of a character into the 2099 universe that I can think of, because it's just really cool. Lynn Kaminsky and Chris Botchler did a lot of art on this book. But basically the idea is that Zero Cochran is a programmer, a net runner. He uploads himself into cyberspace, downloads himself into the Ghost Rider body. And so, he's kind of like, Ghost Rider in the way that like a Ghost in the Shell concept, not necessarily like the series Ghost in the Shell, but that idea. This is, again, completely unaffiliated with the other Ghost Rider titles, but honestly, it's just really cool. If you like the heavy cyberpunk storytelling, metaphysical, uploading consciousness into cyberspace type stuff, Ghost Rider 2099 is a great series for that. And so for me, who loves all that cyberpunk stuff and loves Ghost Rider, it's like perfect. This was the Omnibus edition. It's the only time they've reprinted these issues. You should still be able to buy it time of recording, but if you are looking for it, it's in the Omnibus, and it's not an expensive nor that large of an Omnibus, but if you're wanting to check it out, it's probably one of the only ways they're going to reprint it. So after a solid decade of Danny Ketch as the main ghostwriter with Johnny Blaze as a supporting character and his own lead title and co-title at times, they actually relaunched Ghostwriter post-Marvel bankruptcy in 2001 with Ghostwriter, also known as the Hammer Lane. Now this series is a 6-issue miniseries. It sees Johnny Blaze as Ghostwriter. It is not explained how he bonded back with the Spirit of Vengeance. It is not explained what happened after the previous series to get to this point. It's just, here you go, he's back. And I kind of wish there was some explanation, because I don't think they've ever gone back and explained it in flashbacks, to my knowledge, which is pretty extensive on this topic. Now, after that, there was another miniseries. It was the 2005 miniseries by Garth Ennis. This is The Road to Damnation. This is a present-day series. I find the plot to be exactly the same as the Hammer Lane, which is Johnny Blaze is trying to escape from hell. Okay, didn't we just do this in the previous miniseries? And yeah, that's basically what happened. Now, Garth Ennis did expand on this in 2007 with Ghostwriter Trail of Tears, which is a flashback that focuses on a ghostwriter named Caleb who was around during post-Civil War times and during the Civil War. And this is setting up characters and stories that appeared in Road to Damnation. So it came out second, but it is a prequel. If you're looking to read this, it is intense. Garth Ennis is a writer that always writes stuff that makes me question what is wrong with your brain. But it is solid if you like Garth Ennis' writing. The artwork is pretty stellar. But you should read Road to Damnation first and Trail of Tears second, because that'll sort of make more sense. It's continuity-wise, it's this order. Reading-wise, it makes more sense to read it this way, and then you'll understand the point of this when you're reading that. And yeah, those were just miniseries, but we would get a new Johnny Blaze ongoing pretty soon after. Okay, so in the 2000s, Ghostwriter had a movie starring Nicolas Cage, and so a new series came to be. Now you may notice, like I talked about, Danny Ketch has the spikes and the chains and the leather. Johnny Blaze has more of a, stunt performer look. That's the distinction that as it was for a long time. Now in the movie, they did a Johnny Blaze adaptation where he had Danny Ketch's powers. So for this comic, that's where we start to get that happening. And I don't like it because, as we'll see shortly, Danny Ketch has to be completely reinvented every single time they reintroduce him. So, point being, this is a Johnny Blaze story. He does have the chains, he has the spikes, you can do the penance stare, all that stuff. What I like about this series, the first 19 issues were written by Daniel Way. Mark Texeria did a lot of art on this. This is kind of getting back to the Ghostwriter storytelling format that was missing from the other stuff being very, complicated or miniseries. That's kind of like he goes from town to town, he's traveling, and he runs into different adventures and demons and stuff, and he's doing all kinds of different things. I really like it. It's a fun series, and honestly, if we're talking about entry points into Ghostwriter, if you like modern comics, because the 90s stuff is so complicated, the 70s stuff is, 70s. If you like more modern comics and you're trying to find an entry point, this is a good series to be an entry point. It has a couple crossovers with some famous Marvel events like Civil War and World War Hulk. The World War Hulk tie-ins are pretty great, as he has to fight Hulk in the middle of New York. And this is actually like a good series, I think, to pick up and start from if you want like a starting point, because it kind of feels like a soft reboot. It kind of ignores the other 2000 series, and it, like I said, it starts to homogenize Johnny and Danny's powers together. Now, that being said, Johnny Blaze was not the only Ghostwriter in this time, because we did get a 5-issue miniseries retitled as Ghostwriter Danny Ketch Addict, which is going into Danny Ketch, where he's been catching up readers on what's been going on. This was done by Simon Spurrier, I believe, who does a lot of stuff now for Marvel, but was doing stuff back then. Yeah, Simon Spurrier. And so this is a series kind of catching up on what has been going on with Danny Ketch and what has been happening. Also, they did include the Ghostwriter finale, which was the issue 93 and 94 combined together of the original Danny Ketch run in the trade for this, which is why I have these trades as opposed to something else. Now, going from this, the series would change writers, and the next chunk would be written by Jason Aaron, and this was issues 20 to 35, as well as the second annual. It was originally collected, as you can see, across 3 trades. There was a couple complete collections. It was called The War for Heaven and Earth, and it included other material. Essentially, the complete collections were the Ultimate Collection by Daniel Way and the War for Heaven and Earth Book 1 and 2. There also is a Jason Aaron Omnibus that collects his run, and that was, like, I think, the first Ghost Rider Omnibus, and one of the only. It's not the easiest stuff to find, but like I said, if you're just picking up and continuing, it goes from there. Jason Aaron also started to introduce other past Ghost Riders because, there's more than just these couple, and so they kind of go through that, and then it sort of all comes to a culmination, and you get a big old ending with a lot of different stories involved, and everything sort of wraps up, leading into the ultimate complete ending of it, which is Ghost Riders Heaven's on Fire, where we have Johnny and Danny working together, fighting this guy. I just blanked on his name. He's the giant eyeball dude. But there was a lot of stuff in this, and this is kind of like the culmination of everything Jason Aaron was building. And so you get a pretty solid era. It's, like I said, not too long. It's 35 issues plus some extra material. It's a good era. I think it's a good reintroduction of Ghost Rider, and it kind of builds us up to going into something new and interesting for the next era. So because Ghost Rider comics in the modern day don't run very long, we get to have a little bit more fun from time to time. So, for example, we've had, only men as Ghost Rider. Here's a woman, Alejandra Jones as Ghost Rider. So she is a new character that was introduced in the 0.1 issue, which is the first one in this trade. This was a series written by Rob Williams with a bunch of different artists. And this series lasted a whole whopping 9 issues. Yeah, big bummer there. So basically, this was introduced during the Fear Itself event. Johnny Blaze was no longer partnered with the Spirit of Vengeance for various reasons that are put in here, and Alejandra Jones becomes the new Ghost Rider. And Johnny Blaze is still in here, like as kind of a supporting character, without powers the way he was sort of during the Danny Ketch era in the 90s. And yeah, there's a complete series trade, and they've never reprinted it since. It's a very short-lived era, but I enjoyed how different it was, and it had a different dynamic going on. The character of Alejandra Jones would show up a few more times after that, most famously in Venom, the Venom series in 2011, issues 13, 13.1, 13.4, and 14, which was the Circle of 4 crossover. Other than that, she pretty much only appears in just her main run series. And that Circle of 4 crossover in Agent Venom sort of wraps up a lot of storylines because this series did get cut short, unfortunately. And that's kind of like the end of her. She shows up a couple more times, but not in any more significant storylines. Now, when Marvel Now came on the scene, everything was getting something new, and Ghost Rider was no different, with all new Ghost Rider, introducing us the most different Ghost Rider yet, not just because he has a car, but because the storyline is a lot more separate from other Ghost Riders, providing a great entry point to new readers. All New Ghost Rider, running from 2014 to 2017 in different forms, features Robbie Reyes, a teenager from East Los Angeles, who gets the Spirits of Vengeance, except his Spirit of Vengeance is not connected to the others. It is actually the spirit of Eli, a sadist, satanist, and masochist who is multiple murder serial killer spirit that possesses him. And the way this happens is because Robbie Reyes is doing street racing at night, and he pisses off the wrong guys, and they end up cornering him, killing him, and then the spirit comes in and possesses him, and now he's become Ghost Rider. This is a very dark story for the Marvel Now kind of era, but it is one of my favorite comics of all time. The artwork in this series, the first volume was Trad Moore, who did just amazing expressive artwork, is great. And the storyline of Robbie is that he's not out for vengeance, he's not out for his own sake, he's out to protect his little brother, his only family that's left, and he really just wants to protect him. And it's a very grounded Ghost Rider story for that. It takes place in one location, and he is fighting things that threaten his own neighborhood and community, and specifically protecting his brother. Felipe Smith is the writer on all of this, and it is great. Damian Scott comes in and does artwork on Volume 2, as well as Felipe Smith for the last couple issues, and it's just very expressive, very cool art style. Now, Robbie Reyes would not necessarily become the main Ghost Rider. He was sort of still a spin-off type because Johnny Blaze was still Ghost Rider, and he does show up in the series for other appearances. Now, when it comes to the series, it ran 12 issues for All New Ghost Rider. During the Secret Wars event, there was the Ghost Racers comic, which is a personal favorite of mine. Secret Wars was an event where the multiverse was smashed together by Doctor Doom, and on Battle World, there was one part of that Battle World that was all the Ghost Riders in a demolition derby type racing event where there are no rules and they all go crazy and have to do stuff. It is bonkers. It kind of doesn't really feel like a necessity as a chapter in the Robbie Reyes saga, but it is still pretty awesome. And then there also was the Ghost Rider, the Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider series, also known as 4 on the Floor, which was a 6-issue series before being canceled, or is it only 5? It's only a 5-issue series. Felipe Smith returned, and this series was a continuation, though I do feel like it got a little bit bogged down because it was setting up a superhero team, and so we didn't get as much Ghost Rider in this as I would have liked. Amadeus Cho Hulk was in this. We got other members of the team being, Laura Kinney Wolverine, and Cindy Moon, also known as Silk. And so you kind of had sort of a reversion of the new Fantastic Four from the 90s, except with the more modern Marvel Now legacy versions of the characters, which I really liked. But it was unfortunate that this is the last time Robbie got a solo book, and it hasn't gotten anything since. After this, there was just a couple one-shots and things, and that was all we saw of Robbie for a little bit before he got to be part of a major storyline. But what was Johnny Blaze doing off on his own during all this time? So Johnny Blaze was bouncing around the Marvel Universe. He was part of the Thunderbolts for a time, their 2013 series, also known as Thunderbolts Red. That was a major storyline for Johnny Blaze outside of the Ghost Rider comics. There was a new Spirits of Vengeance comic, which was a new team that involved Blade and Damon Hellstrom and Satana. So it was, kind of a new Spirits of Vengeance take. It was only a 5-issue series. I think it was planned as a miniseries. But basically, you had kind of that going on. But then the major thing that happened was the Damnation event, which was a Doctor Strange storyline, but it's a Doctor Strange storyline that involves Ghost Rider things, because Mephisto's essentially set up a casino in Las Vegas, and Doctor Strange works with other street-level and supernatural heroes to prevent that all from happening. And the linchpin of this is Johnny Blaze. He saves everybody, but in order to save everybody, he has to become the King of Hell. And so that is a major turning point. So while it's called Doctor Strange Damnation, it's very important. In fact, one of the tie-in issues is Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider #1, and that is kind of explaining the whole plan. So because of this, you have a lot of scattered appearances of Johnny Blaze, but he does give up being Ghost Rider to become the King of Hell. And that'll come into play in a little bit in the next series. But yet another Ghost Rider appeared, floating off in space, coming from another universe. And that's none other than the Cosmic Ghost Rider. So Cosmic Ghost Rider was introduced in Donny Cates' Thanos series, issues 13 to 18, and then given his own miniseries after this. This is an alternate universe, future version of Frank Castle, and he is kind of wild. He does not act like normal Frank Castle. I kind of find him to have a similar personality and style to Lobo from DC Comics. Maybe a little bit reductive in that same time, but he is a man at a time and a man that's lived way too long as a servant of Thanos, and then later breaking free and becoming his own man. So Cosmic Ghost Rider, quite an interesting character for that reason. He's had a lot of appearances. So after this, he went and destroys Marvel history, because he gets to go through a whole bunch of stuff there. And then we had him appearing in the Guardians of the Galaxy comic by Donny Cates for 6 issues. He then appeared in an Avengers storyline we'll talk about in a moment, and then he was in Revenge of the Cosmic Ghost Rider, and finally in the 2023 Cosmic Ghost Rider Dual Identity series. Character hasn't shown up really anything since. The interesting part about Cosmic Ghost Rider is that, yeah, he's Frank Castle, who's normally the Punisher. He carries a lot of history, but he is an alternate universe, alternate future type version. Now, the collections-wise, Cosmic Ghost Rider got an omnibus before anybody else besides that Jason Aaron run, and it does contain a lot of his material. In terms of Cosmic Ghost Rider collections, there's a Cosmic Ghost Rider complete collection by Donny Cates that only includes the stuff that Donny Cates wrote. It does not include the rest of it. Now, that may be the best stuff for some people, but I do think that, you know, if you want the full breadth of the character, you're going to go through these 4 series. The Thanos issues aren't as important and the Guardians issues aren't as important as the main miniseries if you are trying to get more Cosmic Ghost Rider. He's definitely one of those more irreverent, kind of played up sort of characters, but that is the Cosmic Ghost Rider. All right, going over to 2018, in the relaunch for the Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, there was a major storyline right off the bat that kicked off a brand new team of Avengers, which included Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider. This was a kind of cool way for Robbie's story to continue on the Avengers. He ends up helping them out to fight a Celestial, and then they eventually offer him a position on the team, which he is reluctant to take because he doesn't want to leave his brother behind. But the Avengers have a good paycheck system, and they will protect his brother and stuff. And so that allows him to join the team and kind of move up to the big leagues, which I think is super, super awesome. There's a lot of great stuff and character development for Robbie throughout these pages. You can see he even possesses a Celestial. But of course, there are some major storylines that are specific. If you're looking for the series, it's in trade paperbacks. It's in these deluxe hardcovers that I have. But basically, you know, he's part of the team. He's going to be there for most issues. When we get into the specific Ghost Rider storyline is this one. And this is going to be Challenge of the Ghost Riders. And this is starting in issue 22 to issue 25. It starts with Robbie. This is a very Robbie-focused storyline. He's trying to figure out, how can I purge the evil entity that is the spirit of vengeance I'm bonded with without also losing my powers, because being on the Avengers is an important thing. And this ultimately leads to Cosmic Ghost Rider showing up. It ultimately has Robbie going to Hell and having to talk to Johnny Blaze, who's King of Hell now. And it's a really, really cool storyline to kind of bring all the Ghost Rider storylines together that have been floating around at that point. An ultimate result of that, I'll let you read for yourself. Robbie would then continue to appear in this Avengers series, but at some point he would leave the main Avengers book. I'm pretty sure, I think he's only in a couple issues of the 5th deluxe hardcover. And that's because Robbie Reyes would have his own sort of solo lead in Avengers Forever, which was basically a series that saw Robbie go through the multiverse trying to collect Avengers to fight the multiversal masters of evil. And throughout this storyline, a lot of stuff happens. There's a lot of things that progress, and it all leads to the Avengers Assemble crossover, where for some reason a bunch of the artwork draws him like a generic white man. And it ultimately leads Robbie Reyes into a spot where he has yet to return officially. But this was kind of like the continuation of Robbie's story and sort of the end of it for a period of time. And that period of time is technically still ongoing, frustrating to me, who really likes the character. And like I was saying, we haven't had really a Robbie series since, but Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, a Marvel Voices special, was a great follow-up to what happened in Avengers and provides some good epilogue context. Sadly, this hasn't been recollected, so it's only been released in its single-issue form, but it definitely is something you'll want to have if you're a fan of the character after what happened in Avengers. This is a good epilogue to that. So then in 2019, we had a new Ghost Rider comic by Ed Brisson, and this series sadly also got cut short. This only lasted 7 issues, and that was because of various factors involving the COVID-19 pandemic screwing up publishing, because this series started in 2019. Like I said, it got canceled due to low sales, and also they weren't printing comics like they were. So this obviously is picking up from the Avengers story arc and is dealing with Johnny being the King of Hell, kind of the complications that go with that. He is still doing Ghost Rider activities on Earth despite his current position, and it also has some tie-ins with some other material, and other crossovers, and it does eventually reintroduce Danny Ketch in a brand new Ghost Rider form with new powers like we've never seen him before, just like we did during the Jason Aaron run, just like we're about to do again in the next series. It did kind of get cut short. I don't feel like it got fully resolved in the end, but luckily that wasn't the end of Ghost Rider comics, because we did get a relaunch shortly after. But before then, let's talk about a new Ghost Rider 2099. The 2099 universe was relaunched. They introduced a new version of Zero Cochran, very similar to the original, similar powers. He's only appeared 7 times, basically. He was in the 2099 Alpha one-shot, Ghost Rider 2099 one-shot, and then the 2099 Exodus series, the Dark Genesis series, and Miguel O'Hara's Spider-Man 2099 #1. That new 2099 universe is ending soon, so it doesn't seem like he's going to be popping up again, which is a shame. It's kind of cool that they rebooted the character alongside the other 2099 characters. Then in 2021, we got a new Ghost Rider introduced known as the Spirit Rider, Kushala. This is a Native American woman who works in the spirit realm and spirit powers. Her whole deal is a lot different. There was a Spirits of Vengeance Spirit Rider one-shot that kind of introduced her character. She had an Infinity comic lasting 8 issues, a story in Marvel Voices Comunidades 2021, and then she appeared in the 2022 Midnight Suns miniseries. And the reason why it was her and not Ghost Rider is because this series was made pretty much to just synergize with the Midnight Suns video game, Hench Magic, Wolverine, Blade, Nico Minoru, who are in the game. But that game used Robbie Reyes Ghost Rider, but because of the Avengers events, he was unavailable. So they subbed in Kushala. And sadly, the rest of the Kushala stories have not been collected in a trade paperback, even though I think that would make for a really solid collection. You could put this, plus the Infinity comic, the Comunidades story, and the initial one-shot into a nice trade. But sadly, one of the coolest looking Ghost Rider characters, very underutilized. Alright, so now we get to the most recent Ghost Rider series, which was the Benjamin Percy run. This is also a great starting point if you're wanting to get into Ghost Rider. I think the Percy run is excellent. He gets some really great artists on his team. If you're trying to get, like, you know, a Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider story, this is a good place to start. This is a ongoing, so it actually ran pretty good. Unlike a lot of Marvel ongoings, it actually ran significant. It was collected across a total of 6 trade paperbacks, of which I will explain to you right now, because I feel like, you know, maybe needs a little explanation. So, first things first, we got Volume 1, which is your pretty straightforward, you know, kind of reintroduction. Basically, the story starts with Johnny Blaze not remembering his time as Ghost Rider, and how does that all work out? Volume 2, we start to get some cool stuff. There's a crossover with Wolverine in here. The second volume also includes the Ghost Rider 50th Anniversary special comic, which is pretty great and features Ghost Riders from across the character's history. This volume also starts to see the reintroduction of Danny Ketch. And Danny Ketch is a Blade player in Volume 3. And basically, Danny Ketch is under he's trying to get rid of his Spirit of Vengeance, and things go awry. And so there's a lot of great stuff in here. There is a bit of an interlude, which is a flashback crossover with Wolverine, and basically talks about a time where there was a group trying to experiment with putting a Spirit of Vengeance into a body, but it also included the debut of Wolverine using a Spirit of Vengeance in a form known as Hellverine. And this would be kind of a spinoff into something else we'll talk about in a minute. The main Ghost Rider series did wrap up in Volume 4, Rite of Passage, which also includes an annual issue focused on the street-level criminal known as the Hood. MCU viewers might recognize him from Ironheart. And there is some really cool storylines in here, and it sort of wraps out the main series. That leads into a follow-up that is labeled Volume 5, because it is the same continuity, which is Ghost Rider Final Vengeance. Johnny actually succeeds in getting rid of the Spirit of Vengeance, but what happens when it goes body hopping to find a new host? Maybe Johnny Blaze was the best place for it to be for the sake of the world, because the Hood is the one that gets the Spirit of Vengeance. And I won't spoil anything from there, because it's actually pretty great, and it's a good exploration of the Hood as a character. So this series, in total, I think, again, one of the best entry points you could get. You don't necessarily need the Weapons of Vengeance crossover, but it is quite fun, and it just was a great run on the character, and I do highly recommend it. And then legally, this is an X-Men book, but it does spin out of the Ghost Rider stuff, and that is Hellverine. This miniseries is kind of a follow-up. It's a present-day follow-up to the events of the Weapons of Vengeance crossover, and is Logan dealing with the group that was trying to make Hellverine happen again. And a new Hellverine is created in this series that leads into an ongoing, which is currently still ongoing, time of recording, and that has been going on, I think we got confirmed up to 10 issues on that. So there's a couple different Hellverine series. There's Resurrection, which is the 2024 1-4 miniseries, and the 2024 ongoing follows up from that with a different person as Hellverine. Again, legally X-Men books because they are Wolverine-based, but Spirits of Vengeance, I consider them Ghost Riders as well. They also both ride motorcycles. So our next Ghost Rider is the newest one introduced, but an older one chronologically, and that is Sal Romero, the Ghost Rider of World War II, also known as Ghost Rider 44. He debuted in the Incredible Hulk issues 6 through 8 of the 2023 series, which is the current run time of recording. He is basically a undead version of Ghost Rider that the Hulk awakened and they had to fight, and there was things going on, but basically this was a version of Ghost Rider who was in the past. He fought during World War II as Ghost Rider and, of course, in the military, and then eventually his spirit ended up getting resurrected in the present day. There was the Hell Hunters miniseries, which was 5 issues. That was a flashback series to Sal Romero's time during World War II, where he was on a secret squad with Nick Fury Sr. and Logan and Bucky, and also, some other members of that era. And that was a really, really fun series. You can kind of see like the origins of Sal and get more of him as a character, I think, than the Hulk issues. And then because he's still kicking around in the present day, he did appear in the Thunderbolts Doomstrike series in issues 2, 4, and 5. That was a 5-issue miniseries, but he was in 3/5 of it. So if you are looking for another take on Ghost Rider, Sal Romero might be your guy. I do love kind of the idea that there was a Ghost Rider during World War II, just the same way we do Captain America flashbacks or things with Wolverine, where it's like, oh, what was Logan doing during that time? But there was a Ghost Rider, and he's a pretty cool character, and I hope to see more of him in the future. And then that leads us to our Ghost Riders at right now, which is Weird Limbo. Okay, so Spirits of Vengeance was the next ongoing after the Benjamin Percy run, and this series touted including all the Ghost Riders. And what's really cool is artwork-wise, we can actually tell the difference between Johnny and Danny again. Almost mixed their names up. But this series actually brings back the character of Vengeance, who was a major player in the Danny Ketch era. And then it goes from there to start reintroducing the Ghost Riders and their stories and sort of connecting them together. There have been a lot of hanging plot threads with Ghost Rider mythology over the last couple decades, and this series starts to tie up a lot of them. It's starting to connect them, pull the tissues together, pull together the Vengeance storyline, eventually even bringing in other Ghost Riders that had some lingering plot threads, such as Robbie Reyes. So they've even started to pick up where Avengers had left off with Robbie Reyes, and in this final issue they even started including Ghost Rider 2099, and the way they included him was super, super cool. Now the series it was canceled. It was supposed to be an ongoing. It had 6 issues, and then said to be continued in Spirits of Violence, which was solicited and then pulled from the catalog. It's back on the catalog, scheduled to come out October 2025, running for 5 issues, hopefully wrapping out all these storylines, because it was nice as a Ghost Rider fan to get a book like this that actually wanted to wrap out all the hanging plot threads we have had for a very long time. And so it's nice to see that's happening, and I hope Spirits of Violence can pull the whole thing home. So that's your overview of Ghost Rider history. I hope I've given you some easy reading guide if you are looking for that. I hope at the very least I have at least made it clear the differences between the different Ghost Riders. They have different stories. They are different people. They have different powers. I didn't get into the power stuff as much. That part doesn't interest me as much as a reader. I'm more into character. But overall, I love Ghost Rider. It's one of Marvel's, I think, most underutilized strengths, because who else can do the stuff that Ghost Riders can do? They're really damn cool. The visual look of a skull on fire riding a motorcycle is just so awesome that they get used all the time in different things, and it would be nice if the care could trickle down into like the main storytelling. But in general, I hope I've made it a lot clearer, the differences between the Ghost Riders. And if you're looking to read Ghost Rider, I hope I've given you some kind of guide. Like I said, I don't do issue-to-issue breakdowns. It's not my jam, but I will have a link in my Discord server to the document of all the issue-by-issue breakdowns. I did it for this. I'm not going to do that for anything else. It's just Ghost Rider. It is a shame, though, that a lot of these are out of print. just ridiculous. Like the Robbie Reyes series isn't in print at all. The Benjamin Person stuff is, and Cosmic Ghost Rider's going out of print. It's hard to get some of this stuff, and there's not a lot of epics, there's not a lot of omnis, there's not a lot of complete collections in stock, which is a shame. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Appreciate that a whole lot. Join as a channel member and get perks like early access to videos and other cool things. Let's give some special shout outs to those channel members. Special shout out to our channel member Captain Tiers, Spin-54, MasterBen95, Forever1000, Super Shaddix Boom, Mr. Smelly Potato, Kaiju1954, Rivers, Cameron Meter, Overconception Reviews, Adam Maggle, Kyle Birdwell, Crestfallen Thoughts at Midnight, Boinkbot, Vangel Giorgio, Muhammad Faiz Daniel, Dr. Grid, Onio Nichan, David Johnson, K Slim, and Starwho. Thank you all for your support of this channel. If you so wish, you can find me on social media on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Soundout12. You can find my wonderful graphic designer on social media and Discord at DarkClaw643. And you can find HeroClub at hero-club.com for comic reviews, interviews, and more. And until next time, this is Soundout saying, go read some Ghost Rider.